In the distant past, long before the time of human civilization as we know it, the world was a place of myth and magic. At the heart of this ancient world lay Flower Fruit Mountain, a place of unparalleled beauty and mystery. Its peaks towered high above the clouds, its valleys teemed with life, and its rivers sparkled with crystal-clear water. This mountain was home to all manner of creatures, but none more extraordinary than the being that would emerge from its very heart, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. The story of Sun Wukong begins not with flesh and blood, but with stone. At the highest peak of Flower Fruit Mountain, there was a massive boulder, unlike any other. This was no ordinary rock. It had been formed from the primal forces of the universe, infused with the essence of heaven and earth. For countless millennia, it absorbed the energies of the sun and moon, slowly gaining sentience, until one day, it finally cracked open. From this stone emerged a fully formed being, a monkey, but one like no other. This was Sun Wukong, a creature of boundless energy, curiosity, and intelligence. From the moment of his birth, it was clear that he was destined for greatness. His eyes gleamed with a supernatural light, capable of seeing through the illusions of the world. His body was as tough as stone, impervious to the elements, and his spirit was as wild and untamed as the mountain from which he was born. Wukong wasted no time in exploring his new world. He leaped from tree to tree, swung across rivers, and climbed to the highest peaks of the mountain. His curiosity knew no bounds, and he quickly discovered that he was not like the other creatures that inhabited the mountain. Where they were bound by the laws of nature, Wukong seemed to defy them at every turn. He could leap great distances with a single bound. His strength was unmatched, and his intelligence was far beyond that of any ordinary monkey. As Wukong grew, so did his reputation among the other monkeys on Flower Fruit Mountain. They were in awe of his abilities and flocked to him for protection and leadership. It wasn't long before Wukong, with his natural charisma and unmatched prowess, became the undisputed king of the mountain. The other monkeys crowned him their king in a grand ceremony, acknowledging him as their leader and protector. As the Monkey King, Wukong's early days were filled with joy and mischief. He led his followers on daring adventures, discovering hidden treasures, outwitting predators, and establishing his kingdom. But even as he reveled in his newfound power, Wukong could not shake a growing sense of dissatisfaction. Despite his status as the Monkey King, a nagging question began to gnaw at his mind. What was the true extent of his abilities? Could he be more than just a king of monkeys? Could he perhaps become something greater? This burning desire to test his limits led Wukong to challenge anyone and anything that crossed his path. He defeated fierce beasts, outsmarted devious tricksters, and even ventured into the depths of the mountain to uncover its deepest secrets. With each victory, Wukong's confidence grew, as did his ambition. But his restlessness was not just a desire for power. It was a search for meaning, a quest to understand his place in the world. One day, during one of his many explorations, Wukong came across a waterfall cascading down a high cliff. Behind the waterfall, he discovered a hidden cave, a sanctuary untouched by time. Inside this cave, he found an inscription that spoke of a place where immortals resided, beings who had transcended the limitations of mortal life. This discovery ignited a fire in Wukong's heart. The idea of immortality, of living forever without fear of death, became his obsession. He realized that his current life, as fulfilling as it was, could not satisfy his deep longing for something greater. Determined to find the secret to eternal life, Wukong set out on a journey that would take him far beyond the boundaries of Flower Fruit Mountain. He knew that the answers he sought could not be found among the creatures of the earth. Instead, he would have to seek out the wisdom of the immortals, those who had mastered the arts of magic and immortality. Thus began Wukong's quest for knowledge and power, a journey that would lead him to the farthest reaches of the world and beyond. But even as Wukong embarked on this quest, the seeds of his future struggles were already being sown. His immense power, his boundless ambition, and his refusal to accept the limitations of the world would eventually bring him into conflict with forces far greater than himself. His journey, while filled with incredible feats and legendary battles, would also be marked by moments of deep introspection and ultimately a search for redemption. In the beginning, however, Sun Wukong was simply a creature of the earth, born from stone but destined for the heavens. His story is one of transformation, of a being who started as a mischievous monkey and rose to challenge the very gods themselves. But before he could reach those heights, he first had to understand who he truly was and what he was capable of. A journey that would begin with his quest for immortality. The tale of Sun Wukong's birth is more than just the origin of a legendary figure. It is the beginning of an epic journey that explores the very nature of power, ambition, and the search for meaning in a world filled with mysteries. As we follow Wukong's adventures, we will see how a creature born from stone can rise to become a hero, a rebel, and, ultimately, a symbol of resilience and the relentless pursuit of knowledge and self-discovery. Sun Wukong, now the revered monkey king of Flower Fruit Mountain, had everything a ruler could desire: power, loyalty, and the adoration of his subjects. Yet despite these accolades, a growing disquiet began to settle in his heart. The idea of mortality, the inevitable fate that awaited all living beings, became a thorn in his side. Wukong could not reconcile his immense power and intelligence with the idea that one day, like all others, he would die. This gnawing fear of death sparked within him a relentless quest for immortality, a journey that would take him far beyond the boundaries of his mountain kingdom. Wukong's first steps on this journey were marked by a deep curiosity about the world beyond his mountain home. He had heard whispers of beings who had conquered death, immortals who lived in the farthest reaches of the earth, atop mountains that touched the sky, or deep in the uncharted regions of the seas. These immortals, it was said, had mastered ancient arts that allowed them to transcend the limitations of the mortal world. Wukong resolved to find these immortals and learn their secrets. Leaving behind his kingdom, Wukong disguised himself as a human and set out on his quest. His journey took him through forests and across mountains, over rivers and through villages, always driven by the desire to find a way to escape death. Along the way, he encountered various sages, monks, and scholars, each of whom possessed some piece of the vast puzzle of immortality. Encounters with teachers. Wukong's first significant encounter was with a Taoist sage known as Subhuti. Subhuti was no ordinary teacher. He was one of the most revered Taoist masters, known for his deep knowledge of the cosmos and the hidden arts of immortality. After a long journey, Wukong found Subhuti's remote sanctuary, hidden high in the mountains. It was a place of peace and reflection, where the master taught his disciples the ways of the Tao and the secrets of the universe. Eager to learn, Wukong approached Subhuti, and recognizing the monkey's potential, the sage agreed to take him on as a disciple. Under Subhuti's tutelage, Wukong was introduced to the foundations of Taoist philosophy and the practices that could lead one to immortality. He learned the principles of internal alchemy, techniques that involved cultivating the vital energies within the body to prolong life and achieve spiritual transcendence. But Wukong was no ordinary student. His natural talents and relentless determination allowed him to master these teachings with incredible speed. He quickly learned to control his breath, to manipulate his internal energies, and to harness the power of his mind. Yet while these teachings brought him closer to his goal, Wukong remained restless. He knew that these were just the basics. There had to be more powerful techniques that could grant him the immortality he sought. Recognizing Wukong's impatience and ambition, Subhuti decided to teach him the 72 transformations, one of the most advanced and secretive techniques in the Taoist tradition. These transformations allowed Wukong to change his shape and size at will, becoming anything from a small insect to a towering giant. It was a skill that would make him nearly invincible, able to adapt to any situation and escape from any danger. In addition to the 72 transformations, Subhuti also taught Wukong the art of cloud-somersaulting. This technique allowed Wukong to travel vast distances in the blink of an eye, covering thousands of miles with a single leap. With this power, Wukong could cross oceans, scale mountains, and traverse the heavens with ease. Armed with these abilities, Wukong felt that he was finally on the path to achieving his goal. However, Subhuti's final lesson was not one of power, but of caution. He warned Wukong that the pursuit of immortality could lead to arrogance, and that even the most powerful beings could fall if they allowed their ambitions to cloud their judgment. Subhuti's words, though wise, fell on deaf ears. Wukong, filled with newfound power, was too eager to test his limits, too driven by his desire to become immortal to heed the warnings of his master. Wukong's growing powers. With his training complete, Wukong left Subhuti's sanctuary, his mind set on putting his new abilities to the test. His first act was to return to Flower Fruit Mountain, where he quickly demonstrated his newfound powers to his followers. The other monkeys were in awe of their king's transformation. No longer just a powerful leader, Wukong had become something much more, a being of incredible power, capable of feats beyond their wildest imaginations. But Wukong's ambitions extended far beyond his mountain kingdom. He sought to arm himself with more than just knowledge and skills. He wanted weapons and tools that would further solidify his invincibility. This desire led him to the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea, a powerful and ancient being who ruled over the oceans. Wukong boldly approached the Dragon King, demanding that he be given a weapon worthy of his stature. Amused by the monkey's audacity, the Dragon King presented him with several weapons, each more powerful than the last. But none satisfied Wukong. He found them all too cumbersome, too ordinary. Finally, the Dragon King offered him the Ruyi Jingu Bang, a magical staff that could change its size at Wukong's command. It could grow as tall as a mountain or shrink to the size of a needle, making it the perfect weapon for someone with Wukong's abilities. Wukong accepted the staff with glee, and as he wielded it, he felt an even greater sense of power. The staff became his constant companion, a symbol of his strength and authority. But Wukong's growing arsenal did not stop there. From the Dragon King, he also obtained a set of golden armor, a phoenix feather cap, and cloud-walking boots, each imbued with magical properties that enhanced his already formidable powers. With these acquisitions, Wukong believed he was invincible. He had mastered the secrets of immortality, gained powerful weapons, and accumulated vast knowledge and skills. But this growing power also fueled his arrogance. Wukong began to see himself as a being who was above the natural order, someone who could defy the laws of the universe. The price of immortality. However, Wukong's pursuit of immortality came with a cost. The more powerful he became, the more he distanced himself from the world around him. His obsession with transcending death led him to challenge not only the laws of nature, but also the authority of the heavens. Wukong's arrogance and defiance of the natural order would soon bring him into conflict with forces far greater than himself. Wukong's quest for immortality was driven by a deep-seated fear of death, but in his pursuit, he overlooked the wisdom that his teachers tried to impart. Subhuti had warned him of the dangers of hubris, but Wukong, blinded by his ambition, believed that his newfound powers made him untouchable. His journey, which began as a search for enlightenment and immortality, was now leading him down a path of conflict and rebellion. Wukong's growing powers and unchecked ambition would soon attract the attention of the celestial authorities, setting the stage for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of heaven. As Wukong's powers grew, so did his sense of entitlement. He was no longer content with simply being the king of a mountain. He wanted recognition from the heavens themselves. He began to see himself as equal to the gods, if not their superior. This belief would lead him to challenge the divine order, a decision that would have far-reaching consequences not only for Wukong, but for the entire celestial realm. The quest for immortality had given Wukong incredible power, but it had also set him on a collision course with the forces of heaven. His journey, which began with the desire to conquer death, was now leading him toward a confrontation with the very gods who ruled the universe. The stage was set for Wukong's rebellion, a rebellion that would forever change his fate and the fate of those around him. In the next part, we will see how Wukong's growing arrogance leads him to challenge the heavens, sparking a conflict that will test his strength, cunning, and resolve like never before. This clash will not only define Wukong's character, but also set the stage for his eventual redemption and transformation. As Sun Wukong's powers grew and his quest for immortality seemed complete, his arrogance and ambition began to spiral out of control. No longer content with ruling over Flower Fruit Mountain and its inhabitants, Wukong's gaze turned skyward. He believed that his mastery of the Taoist arts, his possession of the Ruyi Jingu Bang, and his immunity to death had elevated him to a status equal to, or even greater than, the gods themselves. But this sense of invincibility and entitlement would soon lead him into direct conflict with the highest authorities of the celestial realm. igniting one of the most legendary rebellions in Chinese mythology, the invitation to heaven, a false peace. Wukong's first interaction with the heavens came not through force, but through a seemingly peaceful invitation. The Jade Emperor, the ruler of heaven, had become aware of the Monkey King's growing power and influence. Concerned about the potential threat Wukong posed, but not wanting to provoke a direct conflict, the Jade Emperor decided to offer Wukong a position within the heavenly bureaucracy. It was a calculated move, an attempt to placate the Monkey King by giving him a title while keeping him under control. The position offered to Wukong was that of Keeper of the Heavenly Horses, a title that, while official, was relatively low-ranking and far beneath Wukong's expectations. Unfamiliar with the celestial hierarchy and eager to be recognized, Wukong initially accepted the role, believing it to be a prestigious position. However, it didn't take long for him to realize the true nature of the appointment. When Wukong discovered that he was essentially a glorified stable boy, his pride was deeply wounded. He saw the appointment as a blatant insult, a demeaning attempt by the Jade Emperor to belittle him. This realization fueled Wukong's rage, and he decided that if heaven would not respect his power and authority, he would take it by force. The rebellion begins, declaring himself the great sage equal to heaven. Fueled by his anger and wounded pride, Wukong abandoned his post as Keeper of the Heavenly Horses and returned to Flower Fruit Mountain, where he declared himself the great sage equal to heaven. Qitian Dasheng, Qitian Dasheng. This title was not just a statement of his defiance, but a direct challenge to the authority of the Jade Emperor and the entire celestial order. Wukong's declaration was a bold assertion that he saw himself as an equal to the gods, deserving of the same respect and recognition. To back up his claim, Wukong began to gather an army of demons and spirits who were drawn to his charisma, power, and promise of rebellion against the celestial order. These followers, who had long harbored resentment against the heavens, were eager to join Wukong's cause. Under his leadership, Flower Fruit Mountain became a fortress of defiance, brimming with rebellious energy. The Jade Emperor, infuriated by Wukong's audacity, sent heavenly soldiers to subdue the rogue monkey. But Wukong, with his formidable powers and strategic mind, easily outmaneuvered and defeated them. He used his 72 transformations to confuse and overpower his enemies, and his Ruyi Jingu Bang proved to be an unstoppable weapon in battle. The celestial armies, though vast and powerful, were no match for Wukong's cunning and strength. As news of Wukong's victories spread, his reputation grew even more formidable. The once mischievous Monkey King had now become a force to be reckoned with, a rebel who could stand against the might of heaven itself. His defiance emboldened others who had grievances against the celestial order, and his following continued to grow. The battle in heaven. Chaos among the celestials. Realizing that Wukong could not be subdued by conventional means, the Jade Emperor called upon the most powerful warriors and deities in the celestial realm. He assembled a formidable coalition of gods, including the 4 heavenly kings, Neja and Erlang Shen, a deity known for his incredible martial prowess. These were not mere soldiers. They were among the mightiest and most revered figures in heaven, each with their own legendary abilities. The ensuing battle was nothing short of epic. Wukong ascended to the heavenly realm with his army, and the two sides clashed in a series of ferocious encounters. The skies above heaven turned dark with the fury of the combat, and the very fabric of reality seemed to tremble as gods and demons unleashed their powers. Wukong, despite being vastly outnumbered, held his ground against the celestial forces. His 72 transformations allowed him to slip out of traps and ambushes, turning into various creatures and objects to confuse his opponents. His Ruyi Jingu Bang, capable of extending to enormous lengths, was a weapon of unparalleled destruction, sweeping through the ranks of the heavenly soldiers like a scythe through wheat. The gods were astonished by Wukong's resilience and the sheer scale of the havoc he wrought. But Wukong's defiance was not just physical, it was psychological. His very presence in the heavenly realm, battling the gods on their own turf, was an affront to the established order. It sent a message that even the heavens were not invincible. However, even as Wukong fought valiantly, the tide began to turn. The celestial forces, led by deities of immense power and experience, started to overwhelm his army. Neza, with his mystical weapons, and Erlang Shen, with his third eye that could see through Wukong's transformations, proved to be formidable adversaries. The battles were fierce and drawn out, with Wukong using every trick and strategy he knew to hold them at bay. But Wukong's greatest challenge came when he faced Erlang Shen in single combat. The two warriors, both renowned for their martial skill and supernatural abilities, engaged in a battle that shook the heavens. Erlang Shen, with his ability to see through Wukong's illusions, was a match for the Monkey King's cunning. The fight raged across the skies, with neither combatant willing to yield. Yet, despite his formidable abilities, Wukong found himself increasingly cornered. The intervention of Buddha. The end of the rebellion. As the battle reached its peak, it became clear that neither side would emerge victorious without significant intervention. The Jade Emperor, seeing that Wukong could not be subdued by force alone, sought help from the Buddha, who resided in the Western Heaven. The Buddha, known for his infinite wisdom and compassion, agreed to intervene and bring an end to the chaos that had engulfed the celestial realm. The Buddha's approach was not one of violence, but of enlightenment. He understood that Wukong's rebellion stemmed from his immense power, unchecked by wisdom or humility. Instead of meeting force with force, the Buddha proposed a test, one that would challenge Wukong's perception of his own power. The Buddha appeared before Wukong, who was still confident in his abilities despite the relentless battles. The Buddha offered Wukong a simple challenge. If Wukong could leap out of the Buddha's palm, he would be granted the title of Great Sage equal to heaven and be allowed to rule the heavens as he saw fit. Wukong, ever confident in his strength and speed, eagerly accepted the challenge. In a single bound, Wukong launched himself off the Buddha's palm, somersaulting through the air with all the speed and grace that had made him a legend. He soared across the heavens, traveling to the farthest corners of the universe, confident that he had left the Buddha far behind. After what seemed like an eternity of flying, he finally landed on what he believed was the edge of the cosmos. There, he saw 5 enormous pillars, which he assumed marked the boundaries of the world. To prove his feat, Wukong left his mark on one of the pillars, carving his name into it. Satisfied, he somersaulted back to where the Buddha awaited, ready to claim his victory. But when he landed back on the Buddha's palm, he was shocked to find that the 5 pillars were, in fact, the fingers of the Buddha's hand. Wukong had never left the Buddha's palm, despite his incredible journey. In that moment, Wukong realized the vastness of the Buddha's power, a power that transcended anything he had ever encountered. His rebellion had been futile. No matter how fast or powerful he was, he could not escape the grasp of the Buddha's wisdom. Acknowledging his defeat, Wukong's arrogance was finally shattered. The Buddha, in an act of mercy, decided not to destroy Wukong, but to give him a chance at redemption. However, Wukong's defiance had to be punished. With a single gesture, the Buddha pressed Wukong beneath a massive mountain, sealing him there with a powerful talisman that bore the Buddha's inscription. This mountain, known as the 5 Elements Mountain, became Wukong's prison, and there he would remain for 500 years. Trapped and unable to move, Wukong was forced to reflect on his actions, his ambitions, and the consequences of his rebellion. His time under the mountain marked the end of his chaotic reign and the beginning of a long period of introspection and transformation. The legacy of the Havoc in Heaven. The Havoc in Heaven is one of the most famous episodes in Chinese mythology, and it marks a pivotal moment in the story of Sun Wukong. It is a tale of boundless ambition and the consequences of defying the natural order. Wukong's rebellion against the celestial authorities demonstrated his incredible power, but it also highlighted his lack of wisdom and restraint. The story of Wukong's defiance and eventual defeat by the Buddha is a reminder of the limitations of power when it is not tempered by humility and understanding. Wukong's journey did not end with his imprisonment. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter, one where he would learn the value of patience, compassion, and redemption. Wukong's time under the mountain was a period of profound change. The once arrogant Monkey King, who had sought to conquer the heavens, was now a humbled being, awaiting his chance for redemption. This chapter in Wukong's life is not just about his rebellion. It is about the lessons he learned and the transformation that awaited him. As we move forward in Wukong's story, we will see how his journey from rebellion to redemption shapes him into a figure not just of immense power, but of profound wisdom and enlightenment. His trials are far from over, but they will ultimately lead him to a path of spiritual growth and self-discovery. After the chaos and rebellion of the havoc in heaven, Sun Wukong, the once mighty Monkey King, found himself trapped beneath the weight of a mountain, placed there by the Buddha as a consequence of his defiance and arrogance. This mountain, known as the Five Elements Mountain, was not merely a physical barrier. It was a symbol of the immense power that had subdued Wukong and a reminder of the celestial order he had tried to overturn. The Buddha's intention was not just to punish Wukong, but to give him time to reflect, to learn, and to transform. The weight of isolation. The mountain under which Wukong was imprisoned was no ordinary formation. It was imbued with the Buddha's divine power, ensuring that Wukong could not escape. He was pinned beneath it, unable to move, with only his head and hands exposed to the world. For the first time in his life, Wukong was powerless. His immense strength, his magical abilities, his cunning, all were rendered useless by the weight of the mountain and the seal placed upon it. This imprisonment lasted for 500 years. To a being as restless and energetic as Wukong, who had spent his life in constant motion, whether exploring the world, seeking immortality, or waging war against the heavens, such a long period of inactivity was torturous. The physical immobility was one thing, but the isolation, the silence, and the endless passage of time were far worse. The world moved on around him while he remained frozen, a prisoner of his own actions. During these centuries, Wukong had nothing but his thoughts for company. The mountain, which had once symbolized the height of his rebellion, now served as a constant reminder of his failure. The arrogance and pride that had driven him to challenge the Jade Emperor, to declare himself the great sage equal to heaven, and to wage war against the celestial forces, now seemed hollow in the face of his defeat. The solitude forced Wukong to confront his own weaknesses, his impulsiveness, his lack of foresight, and his inability to understand the consequences of his actions. Reflections on power and consequence. As the years passed, Wukong's initial anger and frustration began to give way to a deeper understanding of the events that had led to his imprisonment. He began to realize that his pursuit of power, his desire to prove himself superior to the gods, had been driven by fear. Fear of mortality, fear of being insignificant, fear of being forgotten. In his quest to conquer death and assert his dominance, he had lost sight of the wisdom his teachers had tried to impart to him. Wukong remembered the lessons of Subhuti, his Taoist master, who had warned him about the dangers of hubris and the importance of humility. Subhuti had taught him that true power was not just about physical strength or magical abilities, but about understanding one's place in the universe and acting with wisdom and compassion. But in his arrogance, Wukong had dismissed these teachings, believing that his newfound powers made him invincible. Now, under the mountain, he began to see the truth in Subhuti's words. The 500 years of imprisonment also gave Wukong time to reflect on the nature of the celestial order. He had seen the gods and immortals as his enemies, as beings who sought to suppress his power and keep him in his place. But now he began to understand that their actions were not just about maintaining their own authority, but about preserving balance in the universe. The rebellion he had led was not just a challenge to their power, but a disruption of the natural order, a disruption that had consequences far beyond his own ambitions. The changing seasons. The world around Wukong continued to change as he remained trapped under the mountain. He watched as the seasons came and went, as the mountain was covered in snow, bathed in sunlight, drenched by rain, and shaken by storms. The changing landscape reflected the passage of time, a time that Wukong could not participate in. He was a witness to the world's beauty and its cycles, yet he could not interact with it. Despite the isolation, Wukong was not entirely abandoned. Occasionally, travelers passing by the mountain would catch sight of the strange figure trapped beneath it. Some would offer him food or water out of pity, while others would mock him, telling tales of the once great Monkey King who had been brought low by his own hubris. These encounters were rare, but they served as reminders of the world beyond his prison, a world that he had once sought to dominate, but now seemed distant and unattainable. As the years turned into centuries, Wukong's thoughts began to shift from anger and resentment to a desire for redemption. He started to wonder if there was a way to atone for his past actions, to find a new purpose that went beyond his own ambitions. But he also realized that such a path would require him to change, to let go of the pride and arrogance that had led to his downfall. The Buddha's intention. The Buddha, who had imprisoned Wukong, had done so with a clear purpose in mind. He saw potential in Wukong, not just as a powerful being, but as someone who could learn and grow, who could move beyond his rebellious nature and find a deeper understanding of the universe. The 500 years under the mountain were not just a punishment. They were a period of forced introspection, a time for Wukong to confront his own flaws and to develop the qualities that would eventually lead to his redemption. The mountain was a crucible, a place where Wukong's spirit was tempered and refined. It stripped away the layers of arrogance and pride, revealing the core of who Wukong was, a being of immense potential, capable of both great destruction and great wisdom. The Buddha knew that Wukong's journey was far from over, and that this period of imprisonment was just one step in a much larger process of transformation. A chance for redemption. As the 500 years drew to a close, Wukong had changed. The once brash and defiant Monkey King was now more introspective, more aware of the consequences of his actions. He had spent centuries reflecting on his past, on the lessons he had ignored, and on the path that had led him to this point. But he also knew that he was still trapped, both physically and spiritually, and that true redemption would require more than just time. It would require action. Wukong's opportunity for redemption came in the form of a monk named Tang Sanzang, also known as Xuanzang. Tang Sanzang had been chosen by the Buddha for a sacred mission, to journey to the Western heaven and retrieve the holy scriptures that would bring enlightenment to the East. But the journey was fraught with danger, and Tang Sanzang needed a protector, someone who could defend him against the demons and monsters that would seek to thwart his mission. The Buddha saw this as the perfect opportunity for Wukong to redeem himself. He offered Wukong a chance to be freed from the mountain and to atone for his past actions by serving as Tang Sanzang's protector. It was a path that would require Wukong to use his strength and cunning not for his own gain, but for the benefit of others. It was a path that would test not just his physical abilities, but his character and his capacity for growth. Wukong, though initially reluctant, recognized the significance of this opportunity. He understood that this was his chance to prove that he had learned from his past, that he was capable of more than just rebellion and destruction. He accepted the Buddha's offer, and with a single touch from Tang Sanzang's hand, the mountain that had held him captive for 500 years was lifted. As Wukong emerged from the mountain, he was no longer the same being who had waged war against heaven. He was still powerful, still cunning, but he had been humbled by his experiences. He knew that his journey was far from over, and that the path ahead would be filled with challenges and temptations. But he also knew that he had been given a second chance, a chance to redeem himself, to find a new purpose, and to ultimately achieve the enlightenment that had eluded him for so long. The road ahead. With the mountain lifted and his freedom restored, Wukong set out on the journey to the west alongside Tang Sanzang. This journey would take them through treacherous lands, filled with dangers that would test Wukong's strength, wisdom, and resolve. It would be a journey of growth, not just for Wukong, but for all who traveled with him. The 500 years under the mountain had prepared Wukong for this journey. He had been stripped of his arrogance, forced to confront his own flaws, and given the opportunity to reflect on the true nature of power and immortality. Now, as he began this new chapter of his life, Wukong was ready to face the challenges ahead with a newfound sense of purpose. In the chapters that follow, we will see how Wukong's journey to the west tests his character and brings him closer to the enlightenment he seeks. We will witness his encounters with demons and monsters, his struggles with his own inner demons, and his ultimate transformation into a being of wisdom and virtue. The path to redemption is long and difficult, but for Sun Wukong, it is a journey worth taking. Sun Wukong's release from his 500-year imprisonment under the Five Elements Mountain marked the beginning of one of the most famous and significant journeys in Chinese mythology. the journey to the West. This epic pilgrimage was not just a physical journey, but a spiritual and transformative one, filled with trials, tribulations, and moments of profound self-discovery. At its heart, the journey was a quest for redemption, not only for Wukong but for all who accompanied him. The monk Tang Sanzang, a sacred mission. The journey began with Tang Sanzang, a devout and virtuous monk chosen by the Buddha to undertake a perilous mission. Tang Sanzang, known in some traditions as Xuanzang, was tasked with traveling to the Western Heaven, modern-day India, to retrieve sacred Buddhist scriptures that would bring enlightenment to the people of the East. These scriptures contain the teachings necessary to guide humanity towards spiritual awakening, compassion, and wisdom. Tang Sanzang was an ideal candidate for this mission. His heart was pure, his faith unshakable, and his dedication to the teachings of the Buddha unwavering. However, despite his spiritual strength, Tang Sanzang was a mortal, vulnerable to the many dangers that lay along the path to the West. He needed protectors, individuals with the strength and courage to defend him against the countless demons, monsters, and malevolent forces that would seek to stop him. The Buddha, recognizing the need for a powerful guardian, decided to offer Sun Wukong a chance at redemption. Wukong, with his immense strength, magical abilities, and martial prowess, was perfectly suited to the task. But this journey would also serve as a test for Wukong, a test of his loyalty, patience, and willingness to put the needs of others before his own. The offer of redemption. When Tang Sanzang arrived at the base of the Five Elements mountain, he was guided by divine intervention to find the imprisoned Wukong. Tang Sanzang, with his deep compassion and understanding, recognized the potential for good in Wukong, despite his past transgressions. He saw in Wukong not just a powerful warrior, but a soul in need of redemption. Tang Sanzang offered Wukong a deal. If Wukong would serve as his disciple and protect him on the journey to the West, he would be released from his imprisonment and given a chance to atone for his past misdeeds. For Wukong, who had spent 5 centuries reflecting on his actions, this was an opportunity he could not pass up. The promise of freedom was enticing, but even more so was the chance to redeem himself, to prove that he had learned from his mistakes, and to find a new purpose. However, there was a condition. To ensure that Wukong would not revert to his rebellious ways, Tang Sanzang placed a magical headband on him, a circlet enchanted by the Buddha himself. This headband would tighten painfully whenever Tang Sanzang recited a special chant, reminding Wukong of his commitment to the journey and preventing him from acting out of anger or impulse. It was a tool of discipline, a symbol of Wukong's servitude, but also a reminder that true freedom would only come through self-control and wisdom. With the mountain lifted and the headband in place, Wukong was free, but his freedom came with a responsibility, one that he would take seriously as he embarked on the journey to the West. The companions joined the quest. As Tang Sanzang and Wukong set out on their journey, they soon encountered other beings who would become their companions, each with their own story of redemption and their own unique abilities to contribute to the mission. The first of these companions was Zhu Baji, also known as Pigsy. Zhu Baji was a former heavenly general who had been banished to the mortal realm for his gluttony, laziness, and lecherous behavior. In his exile, he was transformed into a creature with the body of a man and the head of a pig. Despite his many flaws, Zhu Baji possessed immense strength and a kind heart, and he too sought redemption for his past sins. He joined Tang Sanzang's quest, hoping to prove that he could overcome his baser instincts and serve a greater purpose. The next to join the group was Sha Wujing, also known as Sandy. Like Zhu Baji, Sha Wujing was a former celestial being who had been cast out of heaven for his misdeeds. He had been a fearsome general in the heavenly army, but his anger and violence had led to his downfall. Banished to Earth, Sha Wujing was transformed into a monstrous figure, feared by those who encountered him. However, beneath his fearsome exterior was a being who longed for redemption and a chance to atone for his past. Sha Wujing brought with him a calm and steady presence, balancing out the more impulsive natures of Wukong and Zhu Baji. The final companion was a white dragon, the son of the Dragon King of the West Sea. The dragon had been sentenced to death for destroying a priceless pearl, But the Buddha intervened, giving him a chance to redeem himself by serving Tang Sanzang on his journey. The dragon transformed into a white horse, carrying Tang Sanzang on his long and arduous journey, and serving faithfully alongside the other companions. Together, this unlikely group formed a team that was stronger together than any of them could be alone. Each member had their own strengths, weaknesses, and challenges to overcome, but their shared goal of achieving redemption and fulfilling the sacred mission united them. The journey begins. The journey to the west was long and treacherous, filled with dangers that tested the group's strength, wisdom, and resolve. From the moment they set out, they encountered challenges that pushed them to their limits, forcing them to work together and rely on each other's unique abilities. As they traveled, Wukong's role as protector became increasingly important. He used his 72 transformations to outwit enemies and overcome obstacles. His cloud-somersaulting ability to scout ahead and ensure the group's safety, and his Ruyi Jingu Bang to defeat those who dared threaten Tang Sanzang. Wukong's cunning and bravery were invaluable, but so too were his growing sense of responsibility and his commitment to the mission. Despite the dangers, Wukong began to take pride in his role as Tang Sanzang's protector. He was no longer the rebellious monkey king who sought to prove his superiority over the gods. Instead, he was a loyal disciple, dedicated to the success of the journey and to the well-being of his companions. Wukong's growth was evident in the way he handled challenges, not with brute force or arrogance, but with wisdom, patience, and a deeper understanding of his purpose. Wukong's challenges and growth. As the journey progressed, Wukong faced numerous challenges that tested not only his physical abilities, but also his character and moral judgment. One of the most significant challenges was learning to control his temper and impulsiveness, traits that had led to his downfall in the past. The magical headband played a crucial role in this process. Whenever Wukong acted out of anger or disobedience, Tang Sanzang would recite the chant that caused the headband to tighten painfully around Wukong's head. This punishment was a constant reminder that his actions had consequences and that he needed to learn self-control if he was to fulfill his role in the journey. Wukong also had to navigate the delicate balance between his natural inclination to fight and his responsibility to protect. There were times when Tang Sanzang's teachings of compassion and non-violence clashed with Wukong's instinct to eliminate threats by any means necessary. These moments created tension between the master and disciple, as Wukong struggled to reconcile his warrior nature with the principles of Buddhism. However, as the journey continued, Wukong began to understand the value of these teachings. He learned that true strength was not just about defeating enemies, but about exercising restraint, showing mercy, and making decisions that aligned with a higher purpose. This understanding marked a significant shift in Wukong's character, as he moved away from the impulsive, self-centered behavior that had characterized his earlier life. The bond between master and disciple. One of the most important aspects of the journey was the evolving relationship between Tang Sanzang and Wukong. At the start, their relationship was one of master and disciple, with Tang Sanzang serving as a moral guide and Wukong as the protector. However, as they faced trials together, their bond deepened, evolving into one of mutual respect and understanding. Tang Sanzang, despite his gentle and compassionate nature, proved to be a strong and unwavering leader. He guided Wukong not with force, but with wisdom and kindness, showing him that there was more to life than power and conquest. Tang Sanzang's faith in Wukong's potential played a crucial role in Wukong's transformation. He believed in Wukong's ability to change, even when Wukong himself doubted it. For Wukong, this relationship was transformative. He came to see Tang Sanzang not just as a master, but as a mentor and a friend. Through their interactions, Wukong learned the value of humility, patience, and self-discipline. He also gained a deeper understanding of the spiritual aspects of their journey, realizing that the quest for the scriptures was not just about retrieving physical texts, but about attaining enlightenment and inner peace, a new sense of purpose. As the journey progressed, Wukong's sense of purpose became clearer. He was no longer driven by the desire for power or recognition, but by a genuine commitment to the mission and to the well-being of his companions. The journey to the west was no longer just a path to redemption for Wukong. It was a path to enlightenment, a journey that would transform him from a rebellious trickster into a wise and virtuous being. This transformation was not easy, and Wukong faced many moments of doubt and temptation along the way. But with each challenge, he grew stronger, not just in his abilities, but in his understanding of himself and his place in the world. Wukong's journey was a journey of growth, not just for him, but for all who traveled with him. It was a journey that tested their strengths, revealed their weaknesses, and ultimately brought them closer to the enlightenment they sought. The beginning of the journey to the west marked a turning point in Sun Wukong's life. It was the start of a long and arduous path, filled with challenges that would test his strength, character, and resolve. But it was also a journey of redemption, one that would lead him closer to the enlightenment he had long sought. As Wukong and his companions continued their journey, they would face many more trials, each one bringing them closer to their ultimate goal. Through these challenges, Wukong would continue to grow, learning the true meaning of strength, loyalty, and wisdom. The road to the west was long and perilous, but for Wukong, it was a journey worth taking. It was a journey that would not only redeem him, but transform him into a being of great wisdom and virtue, a being worthy of the title, Victorious Fighting Buddha. In the chapters that follow, we will see how Wukong and his companions face the many dangers that lie ahead, and how Wukong's journey of growth and transformation continues as they move ever closer to the Western Heaven. As the journey to the West unfolded, the path taken by Sun Wukong, Tang Sanzang, and their companions was anything but straightforward. The road was fraught with danger, treachery, and supernatural challenges. The group faced countless demons, monsters, and spirits, each with their own motives and powers, all seeking to prevent the pilgrims from reaching their sacred goal. These encounters were not merely physical battles, they were profound tests of the traveler's wisdom, resilience, and faith. For Wukong, in particular, these confrontations were critical in shaping his journey from a rebellious trickster to a wise and enlightened being. The motives of the demons. Many of the demons and monsters encountered during the journey were driven by the belief that consuming Tang Sanzang's flesh would grant them immortality or immense power. Tang Sanzang, being a holy and pure monk chosen by the Buddha, carried a spiritual aura that was irresistible to these malevolent beings. They saw him not just as a mortal, but as a source of power that could elevate them to godlike status. Others sought to disrupt the journey out of spite, jealousy, or a desire to prove their strength against the mighty Sun Wukong. Some were ancient enemies of the gods, or were under the influence of dark forces that sought to prevent the spread of the Buddha's teachings. Regardless of their motives, these beings represented significant threats to the travelers, requiring Wukong and his companions to remain ever vigilant and resourceful. Iconic encounters. The journey is filled with numerous iconic encounters that have become legendary in Chinese folklore. Each of these encounters not only tested Wukong's strength and cunning, but also revealed different aspects of his character and the evolving dynamics within the group. The White Bone Demon by Gu Jing. One of the most famous and challenging adversaries was the White Bone Demon, a cunning and malevolent spirit who could change her appearance at will. She sought to capture and consume Tang Sanzang, believing his flesh would grant her immortality. The White Bone Demon took on 3 different forms, a young woman, an old woman, and an old man, to deceive the travelers and get close to Tang Sanzang. Wukong, with his keen perception, saw through each disguise and attempted to kill the demon in each of her forms. However, Tang Sanzang, unable to see the true nature of the demon and guided by his principles of compassion and non-violence, chastised Wukong for what he perceived as the unwarranted killing of innocent people. This misunderstanding led to a severe conflict between the master and disciple, with Tang Sanzang banishing Wukong from the group, only to later realize his mistake when the true nature of the demon was revealed. This encounter highlighted the tension between Wukong's pragmatic approach to danger and Tang Sanzang's ideals. It was a crucial moment in the journey, as it forced Wukong to grapple with the limitations of his role as protector and the complexities of the moral dilemmas they faced. It also tested the bond of trust between Wukong and Tang Sanzang, which was eventually restored, but only after both characters had gained a deeper understanding of each other. The Red Boy, Hong Hai-er. Another significant encounter was with the Red Boy, also known as the Boy Sage King, the son of the Bull Demon King and Princess Iron Fan. The Red Boy was a powerful demon with mastery over fire, capable of summoning flames hot enough to scorch the earth. Arrogant and cruel, the Red Boy sought to capture Tang Sanzang and present him as an offering to his parents, further elevating his status among demons. Wukong's battle with the Red Boy was one of the most intense and difficult of the journey. Despite his vast powers, Wukong found it challenging to match the Red Boy's fiery abilities. The battle raged on, with Wukong using his transformations and magical staff to counter the Red Boy's fire-based attacks. However, it became clear that the Red Boy's power was too great for Wukong to overcome on his own. Realizing this, Wukong sought help from the Bodhisattva Guanyin, who had been watching over the travelers. Guanyin intervened, using her divine powers to subdue the Red Boy and bring him to repentance. This encounter reinforced the idea that even the most powerful beings sometimes need help, and that humility and the willingness to seek assistance are vital components of true strength. The Spider Demons, Jiju Jing. Another notable challenge was the encounter with the Spider Demons, a group of seductive female demons who used their beauty and charm to lure travelers into their web. Their goal was to devour the travelers, draining their life force to sustain their own power. The Spider Demons were a formidable threat, not just because of their physical abilities, but because of their psychological manipulation. Wukong, aware of their true nature, had to navigate the delicate task of protecting his companions from the Spider Demon's influence, while avoiding direct conflict that could lead to further complications. This encounter required Wukong to use not just his physical strength, but his intelligence and understanding of human and demon nature. It was a test of his ability to think strategically and to protect his companions from dangers that were not always obvious. The role of the companions. While Wukong was the primary protector of the group, the encounters with demons and monsters were often collective efforts, with each companion playing a crucial role in overcoming the challenges they faced. Zhu Baji, Pigsy. Despite his flaws, gluttony, laziness, and lust, Zhu Baji's immense strength and bravery were invaluable in many of the battles. He often served as the group's heavy hitter, using his rake weapon to fend off enemies. However, his weaknesses also created vulnerabilities that Wukong and the others had to account for, especially when Zhu Baji's impulsiveness led him into traps set by the demons. Sha Wujing, Sandy. Sha Wujing, the most reserved and introspective of the group, provided a stabilizing force. His calm demeanor and resilience were essential in maintaining the group's cohesion during difficult times. Although not as powerful as Wukong or Zhu Baji, Sha Wujing's loyalty and perseverance were critical in moments when the group's morale was low. The White Dragon Horse. Although often overlooked, the White Dragon Horse, the transformed Dragon Prince, was an essential member of the group. His presence as Tang Sanzang's steed ensured the monk's safety during the journey, and his ability to transform back into a dragon when needed provided the group with a powerful ally in times of great peril. The impact of these encounters on Wukong's character. Each encounter with demons and monsters served as a stepping stone in Wukong's journey toward enlightenment. Through these battles, Wukong not only protected his companions, but also confronted aspects of his own nature that he had not fully understood. Control over impulses. Many of the encounters required Wukong to exercise control over his impulsive nature. In the past, Wukong's first instinct was often to resort to violence or trickery to solve problems. However, the journey taught him that not all challenges could be overcome with brute force. He learned the value of patience, diplomacy, and strategic thinking, balancing power with compassion. Wukong's role as protector often placed him in situations where he had to balance his immense power with the need for compassion. Tang Sanzang's teachings of non-violence and the sanctity of all life forced Wukong to reconsider his approach to dealing with enemies. While he remained a fierce warrior, Wukong began to show mercy where he could, understanding that true strength sometimes lay in restraint. Strengthening the bond with Tang Sanzang. The trials they faced together deepened the bond between Wukong and Tang Sanzang. Initially, their relationship was one of master and servant, with Wukong bound by the magical headband. But as they encountered and overcame challenges together, their relationship evolved into one of mutual respect and understanding. Wukong came to see Tang Sanzang not just as a monk to be protected, but as a guide and mentor whose teachings were crucial to his own spiritual development. The broader spiritual lessons. The encounters with demons and monsters were not just physical battles. They were spiritual tests that reflected the inner struggles of the characters, particularly Wukong. Each demon represented a different aspect of human nature: greed, lust, anger, fear, that Wukong had to confront and overcome. Through these battles, Wukong learned that the journey to enlightenment was not just about defeating external enemies, but about conquering the demons within. Wukong's growth during these encounters was a microcosm of the broader spiritual journey that the entire pilgrimage represented. The challenges they faced were reflections of the obstacles that all beings encounter on the path to spiritual awakening: temptations, doubts, and fears that must be overcome through wisdom, perseverance, and compassion. The encounters with demons and monsters were pivotal in Sun Wukong's transformation from a rebellious trickster to a wise and enlightened protector. Each battle tested his strength, cunning, and moral judgment, pushing him to grow in ways he had never imagined. Through these challenges, Wukong learned to balance power with compassion, to control his impulses, and to embrace the teachings of his master, Tang Sanzang. As the journey continued, these lessons would become even more critical as the trials they faced grew more difficult and the stakes higher. The encounters with demons and monsters were not just battles to be won. They were opportunities for growth, reflection, and the cultivation of the virtues that would ultimately lead Wukong to enlightenment. In the chapters that follow, we will see how Wukong and his companions continue to face the perils of the journey, each step bringing them closer to their ultimate goal, the attainment of the sacred scriptures and the realization of their own spiritual potential. The road to the west was long and filled with danger, but for Wukong, it was a journey that would transform him into a hero, a protector, and eventually, a Buddha. As the journey to the west progressed, the challenges faced by Sun Wukong, Tang Sanzang, and their companions evolved from mere physical confrontations with demons and monsters to more profound tests of faith, perseverance, and inner strength. These trials were not designed simply to test their endurance. They were intended to probe the very core of their beliefs, their resolve, and their spiritual growth. For Wukong, each trial became an opportunity to reflect on his past, reassess his values, and deepen his understanding of what it meant to be a protector, a disciple, and ultimately a spiritual being on the path to enlightenment. Tang Sanzang struggles with doubt. Tang Sanzang, the monk leading the journey, was the embodiment of purity, compassion, and unwavering faith. However, the journey was not without its toll on him. The constant threats from demons, the endless miles of treacherous terrain, and the weight of his mission often left Tang Sanzang vulnerable to moments of doubt and despair. His faith was his guiding light, but the journey frequently tested this faith to its very limits. One of the most significant trials for Tang Sanzang occurred during a particularly grueling stretch of their journey through a barren desert. The harsh conditions, combined with the relentless pursuit by demonic forces, led Tang Sanzang to question whether they would ever succeed in their mission. He began to wonder if the scriptures were truly worth the suffering, if the gods were testing him beyond his capacity, and if he was the right person for such a divine task. These moments of doubt were crucial in shaping Tang Sanzang's character. Each time he faltered, it was often Wukong or one of the other companions who would remind him of the importance of their mission and the countless lives that depended on their success. Wukong, in particular, played a vital role in these moments, offering not just physical protection, but emotional and spiritual support. This reversal of roles, where the disciple strengthens the master, was a testament to Wukong's growth and the deep bond that had formed between them. Wukong's trials of patience and restraint. For Sun Wukong, the trials of faith were intertwined with tests of patience and restraint. Wukong had always been a creature of action. quick to anger, quick to fight, and quick to take matters into his own hands. However, the journey demanded more from him than just his physical prowess. It required him to master his impulses, to think before he acted, and to recognize when wisdom was a better guide than brute force. One of the most challenging trials for Wukong came when the group encountered the spirit-spreading tree, a sacred tree guarded by a powerful spirit. The tree bore fruits that granted long life and vitality, and the spirit was fiercely protective of it. The tree was located in a forest that the travelers needed to pass through, and the spirit, misinterpreting their intentions, attacked them, believing they had come to steal the fruits. Wukong's initial instinct was to fight back and destroy the spirit, as he had done with so many other enemies. However, Tang Sanzang urged him to find a peaceful resolution, reminding Wukong that not all conflicts required violence. Wukong, struggling with his desire to protect his master and his respect for Tang Sanzang's teachings, chose to confront the spirit with words rather than weapons. He explained their mission and assured the spirit that they meant no harm. The spirit, moved by Wukong's sincerity and restraint, allowed them to pass, even offering them some of the fruit as a gesture of goodwill. This encounter was a turning point for Wukong, as it demonstrated that strength was not only in the ability to fight, but also in the ability to choose not to. It was a lesson in humility, patience, and the power of compassion. The companion's struggles with temptation. The journey also tested the other companions in various ways, particularly through the lure of temptation. Jubaji, Pigsi, who struggled with his indulgent nature, often found himself drawn to the pleasures of the mortal world, food, drink, and the company of women. These temptations frequently led him astray, causing conflicts within the group and putting the mission at risk. One such trial occurred in a town where the travelers were offered shelter by a seemingly generous nobleman. The nobleman, however, was actually a demon in disguise, using lavish feasts and seductive women to ensnare travelers and feed on their life force. Jubaji, unable to resist the temptations laid before him, fell into the demon's trap, nearly costing him his life. It was Wukong who, once again, came to the rescue, using his keen senses and quick thinking to see through the demon's ruse and save Jubaji. This incident served as a stark reminder to the entire group of the dangers of temptation and the importance of vigilance and self-control. For Jubaji, it was a humbling experience that forced him to confront his weaknesses and commit more fully to the journey's spiritual goals, the inner demons. While the group faced many external threats, some of the most difficult challenges came from within. The journey was as much about overcoming inner demons as it was about defeating external ones. Wukong, Jubaji, and Sha Wujing each had their own personal battles, whether it was pride, greed, or anger, that they needed to overcome to succeed in their mission. Wukong's inner demons were particularly complex. His pride and arrogance, while diminished, were still present, and he often struggled with the need to prove himself, especially when his methods were questioned by Tang Sanzang. Over time, Wukong began to see that true strength lay in self-mastery, in the ability to rise above his baser instincts and act in accordance with the greater good. This realization was not easy for Wukong, but it was a necessary part of his journey toward enlightenment. Each time he chose patience over impulse, wisdom over pride, and compassion over aggression, he moved one step closer to becoming the being of great wisdom and virtue that he was destined to be. The importance of perseverance. Throughout these trials, perseverance was the key to success. The journey was long, the obstacles many, and the rewards often seemed distant. There were times when each member of the group felt like giving up, when the weight of their mission seemed too heavy to bear. But it was their perseverance, their refusal to give in to despair, that carried them forward. For Wukong, perseverance meant more than just enduring the hardships of the journey. It meant continually striving to improve himself, to overcome his flaws, and to live up to the expectations of Tang Sanzang and the Buddha. It was this perseverance that ultimately made him not just a protector, but a true disciple on the path to enlightenment. The final battle. As the journey to the west neared its conclusion, the challenges faced by Sun Wukong, Tang Sanzang, and their companions reached a climax. The final stretch of their journey was marked by an encounter with the most powerful and malevolent demon they had ever faced, a demon whose strength and cunning surpassed anything they had previously encountered. This confrontation would be the ultimate test of their skills, their resolve, and their commitment to the mission. For Wukong, it was a battle that would define his journey and solidify his transformation from a rebellious trickster to a wise and enlightened protector. The arrival at the demon's lair. After many years of travel, the group found themselves approaching the borders of the Western Heaven. However, their path was blocked by a vast, foreboding mountain range that was said to be home to the Demon King of Chaos, a being of immense power who had ruled the region for centuries. This demon had been waiting for their arrival, aware that the pilgrims carried with them the potential to disrupt the balance of power between the celestial and mortal realms. The Demon King was unlike any foe they had faced before. He was not merely a monster seeking to consume Tang Sanzang's flesh for immortality. He was a strategist, a master of deception and manipulation, who sought to destroy the pilgrims' mission by breaking their spirit and turning them against one another. His lair, deep within the mountains, was a labyrinth of traps, illusions, and dark magic, designed to confuse and disorient even the most formidable warriors. The Demon King's strategy. The Demon King knew that a direct confrontation with Wukong would be difficult, so he devised a plan to weaken the group from within. Using his dark magic, he created illusions that played on the travelers' deepest fears and insecurities. Tang Sanzang was haunted by visions of failure, seeing the scriptures destroyed and the people of the East condemned to ignorance. Jubaji was tempted by illusions of endless feasts and pleasures, while Xiao Wujing faced visions of his past sins, reminding him of the violence and anger that had led to his exile. Wukong, too, was not immune to the demon's tricks. He was confronted with illusions that played on his greatest fear, that despite all his efforts, he would never escape the shadow of his past. The visions showed him as the arrogant and defiant Monkey King, forever trapped in the cycle of rebellion and punishment. These illusions were powerful, sowing seeds of doubt and despair within Wukong's heart. For a moment, it seemed as though the Demon King's plan might succeed. The travelers, disoriented and demoralized, began to question their mission and their ability to complete it. But Wukong, drawing on the lessons he had learned throughout the journey, refused to succumb to the illusions. He remembered the teachings of Tang Sanzang, the value of patience, and the importance of seeing through the deceptions of the world. Using his keen senses and his experience with deception, Wukong was able to break free from the illusions and see the demon's true form. He realized that the only way to defeat the Demon King was to confront him directly, using not just his physical strength, but his spiritual wisdom. The climactic battle. The final battle between Wukong and the Demon King was a clash of titanic proportions. The Demon King, wielding dark magic and immense physical power, unleashed a barrage of attacks designed to overwhelm Wukong. But Wukong, now fully aware of his own strengths and the lessons he had learned, met each attack with skill and precision. The battle raged across the mountains, with Wukong using his 72 transformations, his cloud-somersaulting ability, and his Ruyi Jingu Bang to counter the Demon King's magic. But it was not just Wukong's physical abilities that gave him the upper hand. It was his understanding of the demon's nature. Wukong recognized that the Demon King thrived on fear and doubt, and by refusing to give in to these emotions, Wukong was able to weaken the demon's power. At a critical moment in the battle, Wukong remembered the Bodhisattva Guanyin's teachings on compassion and mercy. Instead of seeking to destroy the Demon King out of vengeance or anger, Wukong offered him a chance to repent and seek redemption. The Demon King, realizing that he had been defeated not just by strength but by wisdom and compassion, accepted Wukong's offer, surrendering his power and vowing to change his ways. This act of mercy was the final test for Wukong. It showed that he had truly transformed, that he had learned to balance power with compassion, and that he was no longer the impulsive and rebellious Monkey King, but a being of great wisdom and virtue. The aftermath of the battle. With the Demon King defeated and his lair dismantled, the path to the Western Heaven was finally clear. The travelers, weary but victorious, made their way through the mountain pass, knowing that the hardest part of their journey was now behind them. The final battle had tested them in ways they had never imagined, but it had also brought them closer together and deepened their understanding of their mission. For Tang Sanzang, the battle was a confirmation of the power of faith and perseverance. Despite the many challenges they had faced, they had succeeded in overcoming even the most formidable obstacles, thanks to their unwavering commitment to the mission and to each other. For Wukong, the battle marked the culmination of his journey of transformation. He had proven himself not just as a protector, but as a true disciple of the Buddha, capable of balancing strength with wisdom, power with compassion, and action with restraint. The battle had shown him that true enlightenment was not about defeating others, but about overcoming the inner demons that threatened to lead him astray. The final battle against the Demon King was the ultimate test of the traveler's strength, faith, and resolve. It was a trial that brought together all the lessons they had learned throughout their journey and demonstrated the power of unity, wisdom, and compassion. For Wukong, it was a battle that solidified his transformation from a rebellious trickster to a wise and enlightened being. The victory was not just over the Demon King, but over his own past, his doubts, and his fears. It was a victory that paved the way for the successful completion of their mission and the attainment of the sacred scriptures. As the travelers continued on their journey, now closer than ever to their goal, they carried with them the knowledge that they had faced and overcome the greatest challenges the world could offer. The road to the West had been long and difficult, but it had also been a journey of growth, transformation, and spiritual awakening. In the next chapter, we will see the culmination of their journey, the attainment of Buddhahood for Wukong, the retrieval of the sacred scriptures, and the fulfillment of their divine mission. The journey to the West was nearing its end, but the lessons learned and the transformations achieved would resonate for eternity. As the long and arduous journey to the West neared its end, Sun Wukong, Tang Sanzang, and their companions finally reached the Western Heaven, the sacred land where the scriptures they sought were kept. Their journey had been filled with countless trials and tribulations that tested not only their physical endurance, but also their faith, wisdom, and inner strength. The final leg of their journey was marked by a deep sense of anticipation and reflection, as each of them realized that their mission was about to reach its fulfillment. The arrival at the Western Heaven. Upon their arrival at the gates of the Western Heaven, the group was greeted by a host of celestial beings who had been sent by the Buddha to welcome them. The atmosphere was one of reverence and solemnity, as the significance of their journey was recognized by all who witnessed it. Tang Sanzang, who had been chosen for this sacred mission, was honored with the title of Tripitaka, a recognition of his dedication and the purity of his spirit. The group was led to the Great Hall of Scriptures, where the holy texts that would bring enlightenment to the East were stored. These scriptures were not merely books of knowledge, they were the embodiment of the Buddha's teachings, containing the wisdom that could guide humanity toward compassion, understanding, and spiritual awakening. The retrieval of these scriptures was the culmination of the group's mission, the goal that had driven them through countless dangers and hardships. The presentation of the scriptures. In the presence of the Buddha and other enlightened beings, Tang Sanzang humbly requested the sacred scriptures. The Buddha, who had watched over their journey from the beginning, was pleased with their perseverance and the growth they had shown throughout their trials. He granted them the scriptures, instructing them to take the teachings back to the East, where they would help to alleviate suffering and spread the light of enlightenment. As Tang Sanzang and his companions prepared to depart with the scriptures, the Buddha addressed each member of the group individually, acknowledging their contributions and the personal transformations they had undergone. Wukong's recognition and transformation. When it was Sun Wukong's turn, the Buddha spoke to him with great compassion and wisdom. The Buddha acknowledged Wukong's incredible journey, from his birth as a stone monkey, to his rebellion against the heavens, to his imprisonment under the mountain, and finally, to his redemption as Tang Sanzang's protector. The Buddha recognized that Wukong's path had been one of constant struggle, but also of immense growth and transformation. Wukong had demonstrated not only extraordinary strength and bravery, but also the capacity to learn, to grow, and to change. He had moved beyond his earlier arrogance and impulsiveness embracing the teachings of compassion, humility, and self-restraint. Through his actions, Wukong had shown that he was capable of great wisdom and that he had the potential to attain the highest levels of spiritual enlightenment. In recognition of his journey and the profound transformation he had undergone, the Buddha bestowed upon Sun Wukong the title of Victorious Fighting Buddha, Du Zhan Shengfo, Dozhan Shengfo. This title was a symbol of Wukong's victory, not just over the external enemies he had faced, but over his own inner demons. It marked his attainment of Buddhahood, a state of enlightenment in which he had transcended his past and achieved a deep understanding of the true nature of existence. The attainment of Buddhahood was the culmination of Wukong's journey. It signified that he had reached a level of spiritual maturity and wisdom that few beings could achieve. Wukong's transformation from a mischievous and rebellious monkey to an enlightened being was complete, and he was now recognized as a protector of the Dharma, a guardian of the Buddha's teachings. The return to the East. With the sacred scriptures in hand and their mission complete, Tang Sanzang, Wukong, and their companions began the journey back to the East. However, the return journey was markedly different from the one they had taken to reach the Western Heaven. There were no more demons or monsters to battle, no more treacherous paths to navigate. The group traveled in peace, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they had fulfilled their divine mission. As they traveled, Wukong reflected on the journey and the changes he had undergone. He was no longer the same being who had set out on this quest. The trials he had faced had tempered his spirit, and the teachings of Tang Sanzang and the Buddha had guided him toward a deeper understanding of life and his place in the universe. Wukong now carried with him a sense of purpose that went beyond his earlier desire for power and recognition. He was committed to using his newfound wisdom and strength to protect and serve others, to guide them on the path to enlightenment. The legacy of the journey. Upon their return to the East, Tang Sanzang and his companions were greeted as heroes. The sacred scriptures were received with great reverence, and their teachings quickly spread throughout the land, bringing enlightenment and spiritual awakening to countless people. The journey had not only fulfilled its immediate goal, but it also left a lasting legacy that would continue to influence generations to come. Wukong, now the victorious fighting Buddha, took his place among the enlightened beings, serving as a protector of the Dharma and a guide for those seeking the path to enlightenment. His story, from his birth on Flower Fruit Mountain to his attainment of Buddhahood, became a source of inspiration for all who heard it. It was a story of redemption, of the power of perseverance, and of the possibility of transformation. Conclusion: a journey of transformation. The journey to the West was more than just a physical journey to retrieve sacred scriptures. It was a journey of transformation for each of its participants, especially for Sun Wukong. From his mischievous beginnings as a stone-born monkey to his rebellious antics against the heavens, Wukong's path was marked by constant challenges and opportunities for growth. His eventual attainment of Buddhahood was a testament to his ability to change, to learn, and to rise above his past. Wukong's journey reminds us that no matter how far one may stray, there is always the possibility of redemption and enlightenment. The trials he faced were not just external battles against demons and monsters, but were also internal struggles against his own flaws and limitations. Through perseverance, humility, and the guidance of wise teachers, Wukong was able to overcome these challenges and achieve a state of profound wisdom and compassion. The journey to the West, with its rich tapestry of adventures, lessons, and spiritual insights, continues to resonate with readers and listeners across generations. It is a story that speaks to the potential for growth and transformation within each of us, a story that encourages us to embark on our own journeys of self-discovery and enlightenment. As the story of Sun Wukong and his companions concludes, we are reminded that the path to enlightenment is not an easy one. It is filled with challenges, temptations, and moments of doubt. But it is also a path of profound growth, one that leads to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. The journey to the West may have ended, but its lessons and its legacy continue to inspire and guide us on our own journeys.